being born, growing old, death, and rebirth. This relentless cycle of experience and suffering is what the Buddha sought to find a solution for. To do this, he left his life of luxury, the life of a prince, and went out into the world, traveling, meditating, and undertaking great hardship, and finally gaining enlightenment under the cool shades of a Bodhi tree.
The Buddha began the life of a teacher and a master with his first discourse in Sarnath. People were so moved by his words that they came in large numbers to listen to him, and many of them became monks in the order. And with this, the first Buddhist Sangha was formed. Often the Buddha was asked how a person could ensure a good birth so that his quest for knowledge can continue without a break. The Buddha said that those who seek with conviction should visit Lumbini, the place of his birth, Bodh Gaya, where he got enlightenment, Sarnath, the place of his first discourse, and Kushinagar, the place where he attained parinirvana. So, the practice of visiting the holy sites became a tradition, and many who stayed in the monasteries nearby have gained enlightenment. Let us walk with the Master. During the 29 years that Siddhartha spent as a prince in Kapilavastu, there was nothing that he lacked. His father ensured that Siddhartha had everything he wanted. And yet, there were dark moments when the young prince suffered the pain of uncertainty and despair. Siddhartha's despair was born of a spiritual restlessness coiled deep within him. Unknown to himself, the seed of a different future was growing. Though King Shuddhodana tried his best to shield his son from the pains and processes of ordinary life and kept him within the protection of luxury, soon enough, the inevitable happened. One day, as he was riding out from the palace in his chariot, watching the bustle and commerce of ordinary city life, Siddhartha was struck by the forbidden sight of an old and decrepit man. It was a disturbing sight. The young prince returned to his palace, lost in thought. It showed him for the first time the insecurity of living and the decay that was an inalienable part of every human life. Siddhartha kept increasing the intensity of the austerities. For 6 long years, he lived in the hollow of a boulder on top of the Pragbodhi hill. At the end of 6 years, Siddhartha was existing only on hemp grain for his sustenance. His once handsome body was reduced to skin and bone. His shrunken body was like a withered branch of a tree.
Siddhartha felt that all his efforts were not moving him closer to his goal. He slowly realized that this was not the path to enlightenment. He decided to abandon this path. He crossed the Niranjana river and reached a spot under a Bodhi tree. Here, under this tree, he made a seat of grass and sat in its cool shade. Siddhartha began to meditate and told himself,
"Here on this seat my body may shrivel up, my skin, my bones, my flesh may dissolve, but my body will not move from this seat until I have attained enlightenment." It was a full moon day in May, and the sun was about to set in the western sky. As Siddhartha slowly passed into deep meditation, there arose a force who was determined to disturb him and make him fail. The forces of Mara, the incarnation of greed, hatred, ignorance, jealousy, and doubt.
Mara just could not afford to have Siddhartha attain enlightenment. Siddhartha would teach the world the way out of suffering, and Mara would be destroyed.
Siddhartha lifted his right hand and touched the earth with the tips of his fingers. The earth shook and bore witness to the achievements of Siddhartha in this life and in earlier lifetimes. Mara accepted defeat and left the grove. Calm returned to the grove. The moonlight reflected on the dewdrops on the grass, and the air smelt sweet. Siddhartha's mind was filled with a radiant light, and he was no longer Siddhartha. He had become the Buddha, the enlightened one. It is not clear as to when or by whom the first Mahabodhi temple was built. The temple existed in some form when Emperor Ashoka visited the site 250 years after the Buddha's enlightenment. What is known is that Emperor Ashoka built a small shrine. He also placed a highly polished slab of stone with 4 pillars under the Bodhi tree at the place where the Buddha sat. This seat is called the Vajrasan, or the throne of enlightenment. Sarnath is the origin of the famous Buddhist mantra. Excavated in 1863 by General Cunningham, the ASI has created a garden that transforms the site to the peace and tranquility that must have characterized the monastery at the time of the Buddha. Gandha Kuti, or the perfumed chamber, and Kaushambi Kuti, the meditation chamber used by the master, are the most important structures unearthed. Soon, the Buddha felt that time had come and went into the garden. He requested for a bed to be made in between 2 sal trees with his head facing north. He lay down on the bed and addressed his disciples for the last time. He told them the importance of devoting their life to the quest of finding true happiness. With this, he slowly turned to his right, placed his right hand under his head, closed his eyes, and peacefully attained parinirvana. Some journeys begin with the mind, some begin with the body, and some others when the soul asks us to travel. Walking the footsteps of the Master is one where the soul rules the head and the heart, where the sights and sounds of prayer awaken in us the spirit of a prince who renounced all worldly pleasures so that the world may find peace and happiness. Let us begin and go on this journey of the soul, the true purpose of our life.